Welcome to Success Wave. Life is filled with choppy waters, but if you're someone who constantly seeks happiness and fulfillment, then join Pat Perry, author, Business Hall of Fame inductee, and personal development thought leader as we discover the perfect wave of success.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Success Wave podcast. I'm your host, Pat Perry. I'm really delighted to have you on board. Now, if you're new to the show, I want to thank you for joining us, and remember to subscribe so you can catch a new wave each Thursday. If you're already a subscriber and enjoy this podcast, you just might enjoy the second edition of both of my books. The first one being Reshape, Redefine, Reimagine, and the second one being Business Lessons Learned Along the Way. Now, they are both available in audiobook format, narrated by yours truly. Also, the print and Kindle versions are available on Amazon. Just go to patperrybook.com. That's patperrybook.com to check out the books. Also, you can ask for the books in audio format at your local library. Just ask for my books through PlayAway. If you talk to most any CEO in town, they will tell you that they are struggling with the worker shortage. I'm sure that if you're listening, your company most likely has been affected by the current worker shortage, and also kind of the game plan for reemergence from the pandemic. Look, we've covered this in other podcasts, folks. These are really unprecedented times. But my guest today is someone who will provide some thoughts on these challenges, offer some guidance for these CEOs, and really help us navigate what I would consider these turbulent waters ahead. John Bernatovich is a husband, father, brother, entrepreneur, author, and most importantly, a lifelong Northeast Ohio. And he has over 15 years recently where he started being an owner, get this, in 6 different business ventures, and is the president and founder of Willery, a staffing consulting firm, which is solely, kind of focused in HR and payroll. You may have heard of HR Like a Boss. That's John's latest project, and it's a book that is, we're going to hear a little bit more about it from John, but I believe it's being released in 2021. It's also a multimedia chat series, which really delves into how HR professionals can make a demonstrated impact within their role. Now, I know that we have a ton of HR pros who follow this podcast and subscribe to Success Wave. Folks, I would encourage you to check out HR Like a Boss. So in addition to spending time with his wife, Emily, of over 20 years, and their 2 kids, Will and Mallory, John loves golf. More about that in a minute. He loves to coach sports. He roots for Cleveland sports teams. And I know from personal experience, he is an avid Cleveland sports fan. And he consistently runs in the Akron Marathon Relay Race. So John's company, Willery, has achieved some really great results, been recognized as a great workplace through the North Coast 99 program, and also for business growth through the Weatherhead 100, Cranes 52, and Inc. 5000. Pretty cool. So get this. I mentioned about the golf. John was an academic All-American in golf at Kent State University. He's played in 3 United States Golf Association events. John's also a keynote speaker, and he has presented at local and regional events, including the American Payroll Association, Disrupt HR, the Ohio Conference for Payroll Professionals, and a ton more. John, welcome to Success Wave.
Pat, thank you so much. I'm blushing over here and humbled to be on the show. You're a dear friend, and so excited to see you have so much success with this podcast and your books and speaking engagements and life in general. I always enjoy our time together.
Well, same here, John. And we're going to jump right into this because I think that, your experience and what you've done with your company just play right into kind of these challenges that the CEOs are facing today, any businesses are facing. But let's start first. How'd you get into this line of work, and share a little bit about Willery?
Sure. So as you mentioned earlier, I attended Kent State University, played on the golf team under Herb Page, who recently retired, legendary coach, almost 40 plus years. My claim to fame at Kent was responsible during my senior year at college for Ben Curtis's college visit to Kent State. My golf coach, in so many words, told me not to screw it up, and we had him signed the day after his college visit was completed. So I guess we got that right, and lucky to have a major champion as a contact and friend of mine. And Ben's a wonderful person, and the golf program is in wonderful hands now, being transitioned to John Mills. So after attending Kent, I had actually considered a career in professional golf, although it was a little bit too realistic for my own good. And having talked with countless other competitive golfing college teammates and the folks on the other teams, I just realized there was just too much competition. And I really wanted to, I aspired when I was young to own a business and wanted to have kids and start a family. So I started to interview pretty feverishly my senior year of college at Kent. It was through the Career Services Center, was able to speak with a bunch of really great companies that Kent State had arranged to interview with its outgoing senior class. But I was able to get an offer from ADP, and they went through a thorough interview process. As a matter of fact, I still remember the sales executive. She said, "We're going to hire you because you remind me of a banker." And I didn't know what that meant, Pat. But I got the job, and they were going to give me a nice base salary and a chance to make some commission. So I started with them right out of college. It was an awesome, what I'll call kind of real life MBA. Was a salesperson going door to door and calling on the phone, trying to sell ADP's outsourced payroll services to small businesses. And over that time, I just became passionate about HR and payroll. I saw the impact it could have. Really, when great HR can be brought to a business, what a difference it can make. And so ended up about 11 years ago starting Willery, and we've really devoted our work to empowering people. That's our purpose here at Willery, and we provide search, staff augmentation, and consulting services for HR, payroll, and HR technology.
So, John, what's very, very cool about Willery, and I want to jump right on this because, as I mentioned, the fit for today's topics from day one, and correct me if I'm wrong, your team has worked remote. They've known nothing but work from home, if you will, the work from home option, correct?
Yeah, no, 100% from day one. Never had an office.
So where'd that come from? Because when you started that was unheard of, still kind of unheard of, even though, I mean, a lot of organizations were forced in the last year to do that. Why'd you start out this way? And then why, kind of what did you learn about work from home for your team? And then winning. So I've thrown all kinds of questions at you, but they all kind of combined into one. So you have this remote workforce. How do you win an award like North Coast 99 for great company culture? How do you shape a company culture with so many years of remote work with a team? So tons of little questions in there, but I think you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, I get it. And Pat, I have to say, I'll never forget the look on your face when I think it, like the light bulb went off when we first connected and were partnering while you were at ERC and I was trying to create that relationship with your group and Willery and through our acquisition of the HR department. That look on your face when you realize, hey, wait a second, he's got this business and there's no office and everybody works from home. I think you thought I was crazy partially. And then you started asking me a bunch of questions. And then I think that kind of create a really unique bond for you and I from a business perspective. But yeah, I really wanted the best of both worlds. I had grown up, obviously, in the golf / business competitive golf space. There was a lot of autonomy with that. I then worked in an outside sales role with ADP, which had a traditional office there. And then the last probably year or two of that job, I was able to work from home a bit. And that was, 1990 something. And then joined a boutique search firm before starting Willery. And what ended up happening was my wife had our second child, Mallory. I worked from home for a month and I got a ton done despite having 2 kids. And when I went back to the office, I just thought I was missing out on way too many things. I had this kind of, what if I miss Mallory's first word? Or what if Will wants to ride his bike for the first time and my wife is there and is the only one able to help? Or what if there's a first step? So it was just something I thought, okay, it's got to be possible for me to have the best of both of these worlds, work and what I'll call family life. What I've come to find in having a 100% virtual business is that some people love it and other people don't like it at all. And so we look for those that love it. And I think that's probably one of the biggest differences as to what happened a year and a half or so ago is a lot of employers had hired employees under the premise that you're going to work from this traditional office and you're going to come in from 8 to 5 and this is how it's going to be. And then all of a sudden on a dime, hey, you got to go virtual 100%. And a lot of people had a hard time adjusting to that. We've hired knowing that you're going to work from home. And so, and we really look for people that when we tell them that there's a meaningful reason that fits for them, whether that might be childcare, whether it might be taking care of a parent, maybe it might be just their preference for getting more things done in a work from home environment. So we then look for those types of people because we provide autonomy, independence, and freedom. We have to ensure we have systems and process and structure in place to make sure that people are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. But at the end of the day, you are working from home and there is not someone looking over your shoulder. I never excelled in that type of environment. So I wanted to create a business that allowed people that freedom. And so they get the best of both worlds. In some regards, they get to chart their own career path and the course of success that they have for their destiny of their job. And really what we've done to build that culture, which has evolved over time, right? When I started the firm, I didn't think of establishing this type of culture or really even having these core values, all that evolved. So we really look for people that align to our 5 core values, which are passionate desire to improve, greatness through accountability, seek to understand, enthusiasm in all that we do, and live by the golden rule. And those are hiring and unfortunately at times firing aspects of who we are and what we do. And our culture came as a result of that. So we're heavily family oriented, very much about empowering people, our employees, our customers, our partners, our friends of the firm, our vendors. And then we really look for people that are just really great at what they do and can provide world-class expertise to our clients, whether it's on the staffing side or consulting. And while we were pre-pandemic, we would get together at least once a month so we could have that fellowship between our teammates and give them a chance to make friends and have fun. And we've been forced to do that via Zoom over the last 18 months or so, but that's been okay. We've still provided a forum for the team to not have to work while we're getting together and just having fellowship. I think that's one of the number one things you have to do to maintain a culture is that what Gallup 12 tells you, you got to have a best friend at work. They'll measure that. And so we have to create that personal bond through the work environment, but also not doing work things. So I think that's a really important aspect of creating a great virtual culture is you got to get people together in a way that's not work related so they can have a chance to get to know each other.
And it's been, what a track record you've had in terms of just such an amazing ride. You've got to be sitting, you and your team have got to be sitting there looking out now at all these organizations. You can just see just grimacing, struggling with this whole concept of now, what do I do now that it appears as though some level of normalcy is returning? And I won't even say post-pandemic now because I think we're still in it. But you guys got to be sitting there saying, well, this is all we know. And all these organizations are struggling with, you hear some CEOs say, I want them back 5 days a week, back to regular schedule. Some are right in the middle. Okay, we'll do some hybrid assignments. And then you guys are sitting there unbelievably well positioned. As you look at this kind of gut-wrenching exercise going on throughout this country, what are your thoughts as you see other CEOs struggling with this?
Yeah, my number one piece of advice on that, Pat, is you got to look at your employees as you would your customer. They're one of, if not your most important customer. And so things change. And obviously 18 months ago, the world changed. And as a result, life changed and work changed and everything was different. And we were all in that together. That was the unique part about the global pandemic. It was a unified situation that we were all in together. It touched us in a variety of ways, but we were all dealing with the confines of that. So I think you have to look at your customers and listen to them and understand where they're coming from. Just because it was this way 18 months ago, it's not that way anymore. And people got a taste of what it was like to work from home. And I was fortunate to do that while I was at ADP before I went and worked in a boutique search firm and started Willery. And I got a taste of what it was like. I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, I can go to the office when I want, and I can do my job and start my day at home and actually end up probably working a little bit more and being a little bit more enthusiastic about it while I was working in corporate America. You just have to take a moment to listen to what they're saying, what they need, because if you don't, they're going to quit, and they are quitting, right? I saw a data point. There's a record number of people that are quitting their jobs without a job in front of them. They're just done. They're just over with work as it was over that last 18-month period. And so I think if you're a CEO, don't be blind or not listen to what it is your customers, your employees are telling you. And you have to be flexible, and you have to find a work arrangement that works for them, because your workforce, when you hired them, they were to work from home, like I said before, or they were to work in an office. And now for 18 months, you force them, because of the right reasons, to work from home. And now the fact that you want them back, people can't pivot like that. And some of them really probably benefited and found themselves to be way more productive working from home than they were working in an office. And I don't think it's bad to have flexibility in that respect. But I do encourage you to get those groups together and hear them out and create something that can work within your organization. 100% remote works for us. It's been a little easier for us the last 18 months because we had that already established, but it doesn't mean a CEO or an executive team can't reinvent its organizational work footprint so that it can accommodate the needs of its customer and its employees.
Great advice, John. I would love to make sure that every CEO in this town, in this region, just heard what you just said. Great advice. As a matter of fact, I think you probably ought to, if you haven't already, opened up a new part of your consulting group just to talk about, this reemergence piece, because so many organizations are struggling, as are employees. So you guys, we've mentioned you guys were pretty well positioned for this pandemic, though obviously didn't know it was heading our way. Outside of the once a month get-togethers, and you now needed to do it by Zoom over the last year and a half, did the pandemic affect your business in any other ways? And then how did you guys make adjustments?
Yeah, so the number one thing we had to do is we had a number of consultants and staff augmentation, temporary workers that were on site at our clients. So we had to get them home safely in that, I'll call it mid-April timeframe, if I remember the timeline a year plus ago. It's fascinating how long ago that seems, but it was only about a year. And so that was probably the biggest adjustment that we had to make, luckily for us, because our internal staff was already 100% remote. And then we ended up streamlining and prioritizing and focusing. It seemed like anything that was not in our core responsibilities or was on the periphery, we just cut that out. We focused in on our core business and what we did really well. We just worked together to execute on that. I was fortunate to have an executive leadership team that was there to guide and support me in making these final decisions, and was also incredibly supportive. And they were living through this themselves, trying to figure out the best way for us to continue the success that we had while also providing our support to the HR profession, which was tremendously impacted from an employee perspective, in that a lot of, again, RIFs took place. You had furloughs that were, seemed like a common thing. You had layoffs. We had a wide array of kind of transitioning to work from home. So HR was all of a sudden in the spotlight to have to provide this guidance and suggestion. And we did. I became a little bit more popular than normal in that, I'll call it mid-March to June timeframe of last year, with speaking engagements and consultation work and support. Just how did you do it? What are you doing to provide work from home? And I think the main question that we got is, how do you make sure your employees are doing their job? Yeah. And so we had put together some internal processes. Everything that we do can be measured. We do it through automation and some dashboarding tools. So it's all there right in front of us. So was able to help and support them in that. And then we also, probably one of the bigger changes that happened is we were sponsoring and showcasing, and we're the license holder for Disrupt HR Columbus. We're supposed to have an event in person end of April. We had 250 people signed up. We probably could have had another 200 if we didn't close out registration based upon limitation of the space. And we had to cancel that. So we called that audible to do virtual events for the next quarter, and then every quarter after that. And we ended up getting near 500 people show up for those sessions on relevant HR topics. People were really needing some insight. We ended up having about 150 the very first one that we did. So that was pretty cool. And we'll be putting on an in-person outdoor event for Disrupt HR Columbus, we hope, in May of 2022. So that'll be cool. And then as far as our business goes, we've seen a tremendous influx in contract recruiting projects. Lisa Dean Mamula on our team, her team has been literally cranking out contract recruiters for projects that clients need, because they need help filling the positions that they're struggling to find talent for. And then there's been a significant amount of ask from our team around the remote work consultation, as well as HR technology. How do we better leverage our HR technology to do things remotely, do more with less, as we're giving more to our HR pros on our team?
Yeah, I'll tell you, if there's ever been a time when HR's been reaching out and they're on the spotlight, this is it. And I would encourage you, again, if it's not a chapter in your book, or maybe it's a new book, all about what you've just shared in terms of really setting yourself up for whether it's the new flexible workforce, worker shortages, you mentioned, you name it. There's a lot of work to be done, and we're in unprecedented times and uncharted territory. Speaking of which, let's go, because you already talked a lot about some of the key items that organizations should be taking a look at as they emerge from the pandemic. But one of the other major flies in the ointment here is the fact that we're facing this, again, unprecedented worker shortage in this country, and I think globally. And it seems to be affecting most industries. You can't drive anywhere without seeing help wanted signs, whether it's a restaurant or distribution or manufacturing or healthcare. It's unreal. What do you think's occurring, and how do you feel about this? And do you think this is just potentially just a short-term phenomenon? Are we going to see people coming back in the fall?
Yeah, no, I think, well, first and foremost, kind of like you, Pat, I think you've evolved. Your career has evolved. I know I put air quotes around this, retired, but I know before the show started, you were telling me about how you've never been busier in your life, and there's a need for the stuff that you're doing in the community, obviously with your family. And I think as an employer, we need to evolve. If we stick to what things have always been like, you're going to end up getting passed by. And this global pandemic has forced our hand in so many ways. And I think wherever people are working, I've seen the new term is not work from home; it's WFX, work from anywhere. So this worked for a lot of people, and they've enjoyed it. They've become more productive, and they've found a way to, employers, in my mind, through that evolution. They're providing new innovations, and some of the new innovations you might think are customer facing, new products, new services, but let's innovate for our employees so that we can provide them with the right type of work environment, so we can do a great job of attracting and retaining employees. We can earn the chance to be part of North Coast 99 and other, great ways for employees to partner with their employers to have a really dynamic work-life harmony. People use the word balance. I once heard work-life harmony. I thought that makes a ton of sense, because it isn't always in balance. There's oftentimes you got to work your tail off, and there's other times you take 2 weeks of vacation. That's not balance. Those are creating harmony with those. So just thinking about that from an employer perspective. And then I think as it relates to like this phenomenon that we're feeling right now from an industry perspective, the simplest thing for me to suggest is that people are looking at work entirely differently than they did 18 months ago. I think there's been a huge impact on females in the workplace, which is a major part, obviously, of any great organization. I'm blessed to have my entire leadership team, except for me, are females. Many of them, I shouldn't say many, all of them are moms, and they're balancing, kids' virtual schooling and kids going off to college and everything in between. So there's got to be this understanding of that dynamic. And then I also feel like right now, this situation we're in is a unique combination of a lot of things. That's why we're seeing it. I think that's a convergence of a lot of things happening at the same time, which is, so we had this pent up demand from the economic shutdown, from the global pandemic. I know maybe you feel this way, Pat. I feel like anything you buy these days, there's a reason why it's delayed is COVID, right? Like you can't get your new car for 4 months because of COVID, or you can't, that ladder you want to buy, we don't have it in 6 feet because of a shortage. We also have the fact that I feel like baby boomers ended up retiring because of the Great Recession before. They were forced to work a little bit longer because their nest egg shriveled a bit. And now that we got through this, they're realizing, hey, I need to prioritize my life on what I need to. So that was a large chunk of the, at least American workforce. We then had unprecedented unemployment benefits offered by the state and Fed for an extended period of time, which I think had a unique impact. And then, as I mentioned before, I think people are prioritizing work in a much different way, and it's rightfully secondary for some other things that may be important. So as a whole, I think it's short term. I think it's a real thing right now. I mean, seeing the stat that 50+% of employees are going to look for a new job this year, that's scary.
Wow.
And I think it's short term for most industries, but I will say, to your point, I think certain industries like transportation and hospitality, those are going to be impacted, long term, because it's just a job that I think many employees don't want to do. They want to do something else to make their wage and their living. And I think the economy will force us to find other means to provide that opportunity to employees. So I think we will get past this just like any other time. But I do think work is going to be different for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I do too. I can't agree with you more. I was talking to one business owner, and we were going back and forth on this topic. And, we said that, COVID has took what perhaps might have been slowly changing over the next decade to 15 to 20 years and condensed it to a year and a half. Yeah. And accelerated everything. And when you do that, amazing the kinds of things that start happening. And I think we're starting to see some of the byproducts. I think the next couple of years are just going to be amazing to watch what happens with businesses, workers, the workplace, policies, procedures as we know them today, employee benefits, what's important to people, all the items you've mentioned thus far, including technology. Where are we going? What is work going to look like? And it'll be fun to have you back on. I'd love to have you back on the podcast. And perhaps we could do it beforehand, but even 2 years from now to look back 2 years, because I think an awful lot's going to happen in the next 24 months.
Yeah, I could not agree more, Pat. It's well, if you just think about how much has changed in 18 months, and I think you are right. I know for our business, it forced us to make some decisions that we probably should have made that we hadn't. And I think that was good in a lot of ways. And I think companies, it forced, as I mentioned before, this evolution, this innovation. And I think the companies that are struggling the most are the ones that want to go back to what it was like at the end of 2019. And yep. if you're in that mindset, then my sense is you're going to be doing a lot of pushing and pulling. It's going to feel very difficult, as opposed to realizing what we've gone through. How has my business changed? How are my customers different? What is the workforce and my employees looking for? And then you have to change. You have to shift. You have to adjust. You've got to do it in a strategic, thoughtful way. And I think if you're not, then my sense is those are the ones that are going to struggle the most.
Couldn't agree with you more. So, John, from a take a look from your career standpoint, academics to Kent State, family. I know how you prioritize family over everything, community involvement, your athletics relative to golf, all those different points that we encourage people to think about in terms of achievements and being successful. So when you look at all those points on you, you'd say, gosh, John's one of the more successful people, certainly in this region that I know. John, what is your definition of success today? And has that changed from, I guess, early in your career?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, thank you for that, Pat. And right back at you. Definitely, I would say as I thought about your question, a couple things kind of flashed through my head very quickly. So one was, as a young person, my definition of success was getting a college golf scholarship. That was a priority for me as a young person, especially when I got into golf and I knew that I had a little bit of talent and a lot of hard work and effort. So that part was really cool. Then that evolved from, okay, got the scholarship. Now let's go get a job that I can, start to create a nest egg for me and eventually then marry my wife and then start a family and then start a business. And then more recently, having taken care of my dad in his last 3 months of his life when he moved up here at the end of 2019, I realized, having had so many people come and visit my dad while he was staying with us, how many of them told me what a great impact he had on their lives. And so mine has evolved to that. Like, I just want to make a positive impact on people's lives in whatever way that is. I'll take whatever form I can. I cannot forget about the saying that it's not about what you do or say to people. It's about how you make them feel. And I just want to do my part to be my best possible self. Doesn't mean that that's perfect. Doesn't mean I don't have my moments, but I just want to have a positive impact on everyone that I interact with, so that they were a little bit better because of their interaction with me.
Love that definition. So your advice for those earlier in their career, you kind of have shared a little bit about your journey to date. Those starting out, what would you say to them right now?
Yeah, the first thing I would suggest is to pick your friends incredibly wisely, because one of them may become your spouse or your best friend, and that will dictate a lot of things that will happen in the future of your life. That one's really important. The next one is to save as much money as you possibly can so you can benefit from compound interest. And if you don't know what compound interest is, Google Warren Buffett and he'll teach you all about it. If the more you save, the younger you are, the compound interest, the rule of 72 will kick in. That's another unique idea. I've been teaching my son and daughter about that concept, about the $100 you save today will turn into $6,000 when you're 60 years old. And they'll look at me like, you're crazy, Dad.
Right.
In addition to that, I would encourage you to read a lot, especially Pat's books. So shameless plug there.
Thank you.
To get out there and network. To me, work is about your relationships with people and the people that you meet along the way in business. Business is just an excuse for me to get to know a bunch of really awesome people. So networking is fantastic. I do have a question on my podcast, Pat, that is interesting about similar advice you would give. And it's amazing how many HR professionals have told me they wish they were more confident when they were younger in their career, and they'd be more willing to not be afraid to ask questions or ask for advice. So that's another one. The last one I'll leave with is, if you can find something that you love to do and then pour your heart into it and do it at the absolute best of your ability.
Great advice, folks. Outstanding advice from one of the most successful people in the region. John, I'm going to ask you one more question before I let you go today. It's my infamous billboard question. You may have heard it before. So I have this magical billboard that everyone on earth can see at exactly the same time. And I'm going to allow you to put a message up there for everybody on earth. What message would you place on that billboard and why?
Yeah, so you can probably tell the impact that my parents had on me. So I immediately think of my mom. And my mom, the words that I would hear her say that she would encourage me to put on a billboard across the world is love each other no matter what.
That's a good one. That would stop me. Certainly, that's the whole idea of the billboard, right? That 3-second look gets you to think, and really appreciate that feedback. I love the billboard. If I really did have that magical billboard, John, that would definitely make it. That's for sure. I have been talking with John Bernatovich. He is the president and founder of Willery. He's an entrepreneur, golfer, family man, you name it. John is this wonderful guy who set and kind of the example for so many organizations, a pioneer in the whole concept of work from home, started an organization, one of the more successful organizations in Northeast Ohio, in terms of having built an incredible corporate culture when everybody was remote. And John's work and his team's work are well known, and I encourage you folks, again, to check out HR Like a Boss, and I want you to follow Willery on LinkedIn. Check him out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The handle's at Willery1. That's at Willery1. I'm going to spell that out, John. It's WILLORY1. And, of course, Willery.com. John, what else? Is there anything else that you have anything coming up? Are there events? How about the book? Where things stand?
Yeah, no, Pat, I'm super excited. The book, as you know, you were my inspiration to write a book because I knew you as a successful business owner, and you shared your story about how you committed the time to write your book and kind of get it off of your kind of work punch list, I'll call it. And so it inspired me to go through that same journey. And I'm literally days, if not a week, away from having the original manuscript completed. I can't believe it. We're at 73,000 words, originally scheduled to have 30, ended up at 50, and then that evolved. My wife actually asked me, "Do you have that much to say?" I said, I guess I actually do. But the editor, my publisher and editors told me I'd rather cut more out than force you to have to add more to. So the book should be, the original manuscript should be done and edited by the end of August, and then the publisher that we're working with, I'll let them kind of determine how quickly they want to push that out. We're going to do both a digital ebook and a printed, obviously paperback, as well as audiobook. And then we're also looking to, as a complement to that, add some online courses to help take the concepts of the book. So in the book, we talk about thinking differently, being different, being better, taking action, and making an impact. So there'll be an online course for each of those pillars in the book, so that for those that want to take HR Like a Boss and really do something with it. And then we're hoping, in addition to that, to create a recognition program for those that do an amazingly awesome job at HR. And I'm hoping that there'll be a forum for me to share my story with as many folks as possible, because I have seen what amazingly awesome HR can mean for a business and employees in the community. And I know you have as well, Pat, have seen the opposite. And I just want to inspire people as much as possible to do that really great HR, because it does make a huge difference.
Well, John, looking forward to that, and looking forward to you promoting that. I'm sure on social media, we'll all find out when HR Like a Boss comes out, and I'll be encouraging folks certainly to get out there and purchase the book and dive into the series. John, I can't thank you enough again for your time, your contributions to the HR community, the business community, and of course, Northeast Ohio. Again, congratulations on all of your successes, and I am absolutely planning on having you back on the show in the next year or two. Obviously, we'll talk in between then, but it'll be interesting in the next 18 to 24 months to get you back onto the show and then look back, and because I think there's going to be a lot more to share and talk about in terms of what's going to happen in HR, the workplace, and in business.
Pat, I couldn't agree more, and I appreciate the invite. We'll have you on the HR Like a Boss podcast as well. We're just kind of passing this back and forth, and I just want to encourage you to continue to do what you're doing, because you are truly making a difference. I know people are inspired by the work that you're doing, and I just appreciate you as a human being and a man, and I'm thankful to have you in my life. So keep it up.
Sounds good, John. Thanks again for all your time. As always, look around, surfers, and I hope you find a wave of success to ride today. And if you want some more information about my books or keynote presentations, check out perrybiz.com. That's PERRYBIZ.com. And don't forget to subscribe to Success Wave, and thanks for listening. Have a good one.
This has been another Success Wave production.